All right, so yeah, this is going to be our 4th week of the workshop, and we're going to be starting to work on clothing, blocking stuff out. So again, this is the design we're working from. So I'm going to start blocking in a lot of these clothing pieces. We're going to see how far we can get, but I'm hoping to have everything at least in a blockout form by the end of the stream. Blockouts generally don't take too long because you're just extracting and making some like mushy meshes. Great. So let's with that said, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I do is I start. I think of it in a way of layers. So whatever's on the lowest lowest layer of clothing, I'll do first. So if we look at the design again, there's a lot of like obviously skin tight clothing. So here it's tighter, and this kind of like fits underneath this lighter gray clothing, and then this sits on top of that, and then the belts sit on top of that, and then you have like heavy armor, boots, pouches and stuff all sit on top of that. So you kind of work it up in layers like that. So we're gonna get moving. All right, so let's go. I've actually made it farther along than I thought. Oh, good. Yeah, a lot of people are really far ahead, and for that I'm actually very sorry. I wasn't sure what the best way to pace this was, and clearly I paced it too slowly. But I assumed more people would take time on the anatomy and kind of figuring stuff out. But everyone who wanted to be involved was already very high level, so things went a lot faster than I expected. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to start masking out this part of the clothing. It's asymmetrical too, which is, I don't know why I did that to myself, but I did. You know, as you do, you know, you make life difficult for yourself because we're all masochists at heart. All right. Especially me with fur. Oh yeah. Monster Mushmash. Hey, that demonic hand is looking cool. Thank you. I was spending most of the week on that because before the hand was very plain. I'll show you what it looked like before later, but it looked just very. It just looked like an inflated human hand, and it's like, wait, this just looks like I made a mistake, not like it was intentional. So I really pushed it a bit more. I'm worried that I may have made it like off style, but it's better than it was. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well, is when you're doing this stuff, you know, things are still subject to change. Don't feel like you're stuck exactly where you are, right? You can still change things around. It will become increasingly more difficult as you add clothing, but it's still very doable. You know what? I'm gonna use a lasso because I want to have this kind of on an angle. Oops, wrong tool. I always do that. Anyway, it's this one. I just want to have, yeah, a little bit of an angle like that. If you hit Control Alt and tap, you'll sharpen your mask up, and then if you hit Control and tap, you'll soften your mask. Or Alt, yeah. Anyway, I shouldn't have done that because it was lagging. Yeah, it's not gonna soften very quickly because it's a very high res mesh. Actually, I should lower it down the resolution a little bit. I don't recommend extracting at a very high resolution because this process will just be super slow. So you're better off knocking it down a bit, especially because I'm going to end up projecting it a little bit at the end. Okay. Something like that. Okay, so I think that's fairly good. I'm not 100% sure about this piece. I might adjust that a little bit. I'm gonna lean her forward a tad so that I get that angle in there. Hold on, I think I tilted her the wrong way. I gotta tilt her up. There we go. I'm just going for like this kind of angle similar to the lower leg. I like to have it angled down towards the front. That might be too much, but I can always pull it around a little bit. Yeah, so like angles are nice. You don't want to have like straight lines across. You want to kind of crisscross angles. You can actually see here that I have an angle going up this way and an angle going down this way. Having that kind of contrapposto, whatever the term is, it's just nice. It adds a little bit more interest to your design. Morning Stark, can I get one of those delivered to my door? Making a character for one of your games? No, this is a workshop I'm currently doing, and I'm just going through the process of creating a character. So we started with design, we've moved on to sculpting, anatomy, we're going to move on then to clothing, and then we're going to go into rigging, animation, and then implementation into Unity. Okay, so we got that. So let's extract this now. I'm definitely gonna have to load. Oh, maybe not actually, because I extracted other stuff earlier. Okay, it's obviously too high res still because it's taking a while to process. Well, it's not too bad. That might be a little bit thick. However, I will be projecting it, doing a quick Z remesh, and then pulling it out again. So it might be okay actually. So we're gonna do that. Let's let's extract it and see what we get. Oh, the only other problem though is because it's such a heavy mesh, it's gonna be a pain to Z mesh. You know what? I'm actually gonna reduce this one more. Okay. Extract. That'll do. Cool. So we got this piece now. Is it like a class? Yeah, it is like a class. Yeah, it's informal, but it is a class. Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to Z remesh this. I'm going to keep polygroups, and I like to test it out by going to the lowest subdivision possible. The lower subdivisions you have to work with, the better. But obviously, you're not always going to get a very clean result from the lower resolutions. This is still very slow, so I might have had to reduce the subdivisions on the model before extracting a little bit more. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, so the lowest obviously isn't enough, which is too bad. So we'll have to add more. I'm trying to think what I want to do here, but there seems to be some issues here. Oh, there's a hole in the mesh. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna have to re-extract this anyway. Sorry about that. We're gonna go back here and we're going to make sure that that's masked. And we'll reduce the subdivisions one more. And extract. And accept. Alright, now we'll go at it again. I'm gonna keep it a little bit higher. See how it goes. Doing clothes is the most interesting portion of all this. Yeah, it's... Oh. Okay, well that was... Too bad I'm not using symmetry, because obviously that's why I said I was a little bit disappointed in myself for not using symmetry, because like you can see it works a lot better when you use symmetry. I suppose what I could do is I could just bridge that gap if I wanted. But yeah, we'll try without. The problem, like I want to have like a nice straight line down the middle. I might actually end up doing that. That might give me a better result. Yeah. The process is always slower when you keep your groups. It just has to figure more stuff out. But that's okay. Yeah, I'm gonna use symmetry and I'm just gonna bridge it. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Clearly, that's a better solution here. Perfect. Look how much cleaner that is. Oh, this is fabric and it's kind of like getting sucked up into her butt, which is not good. So I'm gonna actually, one, I'm gonna unmask this, and two, I'm gonna actually add a little bit of volume here because I don't want the retopo to kind of add that kind of like crease in the middle. That's just gonna be a little bit weird looking. But fabric, indeed. Yeah, so that's stuff to keep in mind too when you're extracting meshes. Is like you don't want crevices and things necessarily to like translate into the fabric over top. So you don't want to just pure extract. Sometimes you want to like fill in areas as well. Hannah Havgust is now following. There you're following. Welcome in. All right, that's better. That's better. Okay. So, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our meshes. So we're going to take this guy. I'm going to get rid of this excess. Sometimes it does weird stuff like that, but that's okay. We can work around it. Cool. Oh, I don't know why I didn't take this stuff with it. Why'd you leave that behind? That was weird. Oh, I probably accidentally unmasked it when I was getting rid of that other stuff. No, that's on me. Okay. And then we're going to go to modify, delete hidden. We're going to make sure that this is all poly grouped. And we're going to move this stuff here like that. Okay, that's fine. And I'm curious whether I want to have... I feel like I don't want to have this kind of rounded edge, but I mean, like, you're not going to see this anyway. It's going to be tucked underneath, so it really doesn't matter. Yeah, so I'm just going to leave it. Let's not waste time on that. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that there's more evenly spaced topology. So I'm going to actually add a couple loops in here, or a loop. I'm going to slide this one up. Slide edge loop partial? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hold on. Why are you not mirroring? That's weird. Huh. Okay. ZBrush is just doing a weird thing there. That's weird, but at least it works, so that's fine. And I'll just like clean up the lines a little bit. I am noticing that this translation to this might not be good. Because this might have more or less divisions around. So let's, I'm gonna bridge one, like so. I'm gonna do both on both. Oh, you know what I should have done is I should have just, oh well, it's too late now. What I should have done is had one complete piece to begin with and then deleted the segments on one side, but I didn't do that. I'm just gonna hope that this lines up. If it doesn't, I'll have to make some adjustments. And then I'll obviously I'll delete the excess polygons. It's okay. We'll just work with what we got here. I think it's gonna be fine. Not to worry. I'm guessing that ZBrush's algorithm kind of keeps a similar amount of loops around any kind of extension that it finds. Oh, not quite. Close. Close. So I'm just gonna adjust this so that they match. Okay. I'm gonna remove one of these edges so that there's a little bit less. Also, it's gonna make edges more square too. I did find that these are pretty rectangular edges, so this is the good anyway. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and then we have 4 on the top as well. Okay, so that did it. Great. Perfect. Okay. Now I'm just going to move this over. How's the stream going? It's going all right. It's going all right. We're carrying on. We're finally starting on the clothing today, getting stuff done. So I think that lines up pretty well. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn off symmetry, and I'm going to get rid of this on one side. Hold on. Let me make sure that I've saved this. Yeah. Okay, great. I'm going to do a quick save though. I really enjoyed the quick save button because that way you don't have to like worry about going to your files and saving a particular place, but you still have it saved somewhere. It's very handy. And I'm gonna insert some more edges here. Actually, before I do that, let's make sure that this is, I can see like a little kink in the loop here. I kind of want to keep it as smooth as possible. All right. And now we're gonna go back into the Z modeler. I'm gonna turn off symmetry again because it's not gonna like the fact that there's asymmetry. Oh, that was weird. You guys saw that, right? Huh. It's not having it. Oh, I see. Okay. Sometimes if you have hidden meshes, Z modeler does not work properly. I don't know why it does that, but it does that often. So it's something to keep in mind too. If you find things are a little bit weird with the Z modeler, you might have some of your geometry hidden. So yeah, keep that in mind. I'm gonna add a few more loops in here. Like I said before, I like to have relatively square polygons. So if I can, I will adjust these a little bit so that they're not so elongated. Okay. All right, that's good. Now what I want to do is I actually want to show my other mesh here. And I'm going to inflate all. Z modeler, hold on. Where's my inflate thing? Oh, it's not called inflate, my bad. Is it? No, it is called inflate. Anyway. So inflate, and then I want to do all polygons. We're just going to pull that in. Just get it flush the body. Remember, I extracted with some thickness, and that kind of like offset it from the body a little bit. But I want to have it touching because this is a like a skin tight fabric. So we're gonna go project all. It's gonna go into all the crevices again, so I'll have to fix it again. But at least the topology doesn't have like extra supporting edges where I don't want it to. So that's not a big deal. So we're going to go here and we're going to do project. Where is it? Project. Project all. Would you like? No, I do not want to poly paint. Okay. Great. So this is snapped again. And what we're going to do now is we're going to extrude all. I'm actually going to polygroup this all together. Yeah, I'm going to polygroup this all together. And then we're going to go into extrude. And then we're going to do, oh, hold on, all polygons. Extrude that out. Then we kind of decide how thick we want this to be. It's, you know, you don't want it to be super thick because it will look a little bit weird. Great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to store a morph target. And we're going to subdivide this a few times. Yeah. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I want to have the fabric kind of retain its shape a little bit, so I'm going to crease the polygroups. We'll divide this once or twice. Yeah, okay. And because this is a tighter fabric, I kind of want it to hold on to some of the anatomical details underneath. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to isolate select this part, project it, project all, no poly paint. Okay, so now this has got the details, but it's also tight against the body again. So what we have to do is we have to use our inflate tool. The deformation inflate. We can't use polymodeler at this point because we have subdivisions, so that's not going to work. But we're going to re-inflate it a little bit. Make sure that it's similar in thickness, and then we just show everything, and there you go. So now we have that piece of fabric. All good. Obviously, I have to remove some details because things are tighter than they're supposed to be, but that's okay. All right, so we're gonna go through that process one more time on the other piece of fabric. So we're gonna go back to the body. And we're gonna mask out the next part. I'm also gonna select a different brush. Okay, good. So this one goes kind of like this. So it's like that. And yeah, so this is going to be a little bit of a process. I'm aware. It does take it takes patience. And but we'll get it. We'll get it. Yeah. And once we have a lot of this in place, we'll have to adjust the body underneath to kind of interact with the clothing as well. So like anything that's tighter is obviously going to add pressure to the flesh. So you're going to get a little bit of kind of like a creasing in those areas. So we'll deal with that as well later. Patience and lots of Control Z's, that's right. Yeah, I hear a lot of people hate on themselves for doing a lot of Control Z's, or people saying Control Z is bad, but you know what, whatever. You gotta undo, who cares? Yeah. It doesn't really matter. You're just figuring stuff out, and you don't have to worry about it. Hey Evil, welcome in. I hope your day's going well. Okay. Something to keep in mind too is whenever you extract from a mesh, it's always going to be a little bit more inflated, or it's going to cover up more of the surface than you initially intended. So I usually try to cut away a little extra so that when it does extract, it extracts closer to what I want. Of course, you can move things around after the extract is done, so I wouldn't worry too much, but it's something to keep in mind. I don't like that there's a bump there. I'm trying to get rid of. There we go. Yep, that looks okay. Need to run with my model? What do you mean? I'm too busy that I haven't started my model yet. No worries, Evil. The VODs will be up, and I'm always happy to give you some guidance if you want. People who meant to undo are trying to save some egos up on others. Or sorry, are trying to have some ego. Yeah. I tend to think some artists are that skilled to be able to do it without undoing, but if the tool is available, why not? Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't define how talented you are. That's okay. No worries, Evil. Take things at your own pace, and it'll all be well. Okay. Once this is all done too, I will like refine the edges on things. But again, we're blocking stuff out right now, so I don't care about the nitty gritty just yet. Hey, Noz. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so this isn't getting the nicest topology here. I'm going to bump it up a little higher than that. Whatever I need to get the, yeah. This is better. Maybe a bit more. I'll bump it up just a touch more. Okay. This is actually worse. This is worse than the other one. Ooh, it's getting worse the higher I go. Okay. So I'm gonna go lower, and I'll just clean up the stuff that I didn't like. That's funny. See, like I wanted this nice clean loop around the edge like this, and that disappeared when I got to higher levels. I thought it would support that a little bit more, but no. Something to keep in mind too. Sometimes the interior of the remesh is better than the exterior. In this case, it's the exterior that's better, which is going to be easier for me. But it's something to keep in mind. Just like look out for that. I do want to change this topology a little bit, but not too much. So modify, delete hidden, and we're going to just, so I don't really like, I don't like this area, and I don't like this area, because we got these really rectangular polygons. So I've got to figure that out. Try Control Z while drawing on paper. Oh yeah, I've done that too. Just draw a little Control Z button on your page and then try to press it so that you can kind of like deal with anxiety. Yeah. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna see about maybe I'll try yeah, maybe I'll insert an edge here. That might help a little bit. We're gonna slide edge loop partial. So oh, that's not good. Okay, I'll fix that. Hold on. That's not clean at all. What is going on here? Look at this mess. Look at this mess. Oh. Gotta do some house cleaning. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete some polys. We're going to delete this guy. Come on. There you go. And we're going to insert like so. And then we're going to stitch these together. Oh, hold on. Let's split, not stitch. Stitch. There. No? It's not having it. Hang on. No, not like this. No. There we go. Okay. Cool. Don't worry about that triangle. We'll deal with that. We're working on it. All in due time. Patience. Patience, young ones. Patience. Yes. Okay. So let's see what we want to do here. I could probably stitch this all the way up to the top, add an edge loop around. That will work. All right, let's do that. Z modeler, stitch, stitch, and stitch. There we go. And then what I do is we have now a. Do I want to do it that way? Maybe. I could also leave this as like a cutout for the tail, but I'm probably not even going to do a cutout for the tail. I'm probably just going to like shove it into the body in areas where the tail is coming through. Just because it's easier to deal with, but we'll do that later. Pause, welcome in. I like to extract it out thickness, then Z-remesh for better topo, and then manually add thickness. That's essentially what I'm doing. But I find that when you have thickness on the mesh, you get a better retopo mesh. So I extract it with thickness, retop it, and then flatten it, and then re-extrude it. You're not sorry, Noz. You're not sorry. Nor should you be. I have brought this fate upon myself. Okay. Interested on how you'll do the bandages? The bandages are very much the same process. Nothing fancy, you'll see. Okay. It's doing that thing where it's not sliding the whole thing. Okay. That's alright. Everything is fine. Alright, we're gonna just add a extra edge in here. You're right, I'm not. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Okay, so sometimes it just does not. There we go. Sometimes you gotta rotate your camera a bit in order for the tools to work. I'm not gonna lie, the Z modeler is a finicky tool. It can be very frustrating sometimes, especially when things like this are happening. I'm gonna quick save. One thing I've noticed too is when it comes into situations where you keep trying to stitch a vert and it's just not stitching, and you keep pushing it, it often leads to ZBrush crashing. So I would be careful about that too. Okay, that one's stitched very easily. This one, however, does not want to stitch. So I'm actually going to do this a different way. I'm just going to bridge them. There we go. We'll smooth that out. And we'll polygroup that together. That's a lot better topology, I think. Then what we're going to do is we're going to project it. Nope, none of that. Hold on, I want to actually hide that other mesh first. There we go. Because it was projecting onto the other mesh we had extracted earlier. Okay. And now we're just going to clean up our edging. Justin Lavendel is now following. There you're following. Welcome in. Okay, then we're gonna go geometry, crease polygroup. You know, I'm actually gonna use a regular crease here because this is gonna give me a sharp edge on that corner as well. The crease tool bases its creasing off of the angle between edges. And often when you have a sharp corner like that, it'll do the job. There's a chance it'll add them where you don't want them to, so I'd be careful when using that. But it is handy to use. So now what I'm going to do is store morph target. I'm going to divide that a few times. Yeah, so when I use creasing, I usually leave it at like a level 1. It's very good for fabric, so that you retain the thickness of the fabric, but you don't get this incredibly sharp edge. So yeah, anyway, that's something that I like to use. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to project all. Nope. Okay, and then that gets the body detail. You know what I should do too is I should have up-res this before I was projecting, but mind you, it is supposed to be kind of like this this fabric over top, right? So you don't want to get too many of the details. So maybe it wasn't a bad thing that I didn't subdivide it before projecting, but maybe I'll project it again anyway. Okay, hold on. Undo that and project. Sometimes if you project twice, if a mesh is already close to the surface and you project, sometimes you'll get those spikes. So that's also something to keep in mind. We'll inflate this a little bit. Oops, not too much though. All right, we get a little bit of strangeness on the edges here, which is fine. We'll have to clean that up later, but it's just there, you know? Okay. Then I'm gonna show the other mesh. Okay. The important thing is to make sure that when you inflate the other meshes that are over top. Oh, oops. I forgot about the tail. That's okay. It softens off pretty easily. Not to worry at all. I have to run? Alright, Queens, have a good one. Thanks for hanging out. If you're looking for feedback, I can also give you feedback and you can check the VOD later. But if not, all good. Okay. Just gonna make sure that this kind of sits on top of the other stuff. Right. The fun part is going to be like when we actually do the you know, proper clothing, not tights. Tights are kind of boring. Okay. The next thing I want to do is probably I could probably do the wraps and stuff. Hold on, we gotta mute. Sorry, just had to sneeze. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna do the upper shirt area now. I don't want to extract from here because you're gonna get this huge crevice, and it's supposed to be this kind of fabric that's on top. So I might do is get this one strip. The more I think about it, the more I realize it makes no sense. But Naz and I were discussing yesterday, and I think I want to try to do hair cards. Go for it. Cable's actually doing hair cards as well. So if you want to do hair cards, you can definitely do hair cards. I could even cover some of the process for hair cards when we start doing the low poly and things like that, if you like. So in my design, this actually doesn't go all the way around, which doesn't make any kind of sense. And I'm wondering whether I want to leave it that way or not. I think I want it to go all the way around. I'm trying to think of what I want to do here. I could just create one mesh and extract. Yeah, and then or just like make one mesh and then just sculpt in the strand like the cloth, but that's okay. We'll do it this way and then we'll see where we go. I think this is going to give us a cleaner result. It's just going to be a little bit more work. I shouldn't have undid that. Oh boy. Oh, there it is. Okay, great. All right, I'll do this, and then if I want to get rid of stuff, I can just like push it into the mesh. So it's not a big deal. Let's go with this. Okay. So we're gonna extract this again. Where's my extract? I always lose it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Extract. Okay. That'll be alright. Accept. Glad you like the model, Squid. If you could, that would be amazing, honestly. Okay, cool. Give it a second. Oh, I extracted at too high resolution again. Hold on. I was wondering what was happening. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Why is it taking so long to Z-remesh? Okay. That should be a lot faster now. Ha! See? There you go. Yeah. Yeah, okay, that should be okay. So this is gonna be a thicker fabric, so I'm actually okay with it being a little bit looser. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do crease poly group. Set this to 1. I'm gonna duplicate this a bunch of times, and then we're just gonna shove it around and whatnot. I'm gonna turn perspective off. Move. Okay. And we're just gonna go down torso with these wraps. And afterwards, I'm gonna go in and kind of like overlap and underlap and whatever, add asymmetry and such. But this is very much how I do the wraps in the arms too. I think that this is actually going to go up higher. Yeah, I might have to like readjust these later too, because I don't think this is going to look great. But you know, this is supposed to be for a blockout and stuff, right? So you don't want to worry about it too much. Don't dwell on things. It'll all work out in the end. Because yeah, I might be better off just sculpting this out of one big piece of geo. The more I do this, the more I think that's actually the route I should have taken. But the thing is, this gives you a cleaner mesh at the end, so it's always hard to make that call. Okay. That should be enough. I can turn perspective back on. Alright. So now I'm going to do is I'm going to store morph target. I'm going to divide that twice maybe. Turn off symmetry. And we're going to just move things around a little. Because right now the issue is that it's all even, right? So there's no asymmetry. It's very stiff looking. So I just want to get some semblance of variation. It's also a very messy mesh right now, which is what I'm not a fan of. The whole idea was to make it a clean mesh at the end, but because it's all wobbly like this, I don't think I'm getting the benefits that I wanted. And I might double back to making it just one piece that I just sculpt into. We could probably do both and then compare. All right. I guess, yeah, there's not particularly much I can talk about for this particular piece, but I can talk about some other stuff while we're doing this. So you'll notice that since last week, there's been a good number of changes on the model. Obviously, I can't do 100% everything on stream, but I can talk about a little bit of things that I did. For instance, the arm I had mentioned earlier, I basically added more detail to it to kind of give it that kind of more dragon lizard-like feel. Because it was kind of, again, it just looked like an inflated hand, which just didn't feel right. So adding a little bit of kind of influence from what it's supposed to be kind of helps strengthen the design a little bit. Yeah, other than that, I kind of went in and I refined the hair and stuff a little bit more. You can see I started the braid. There's a number of ways you can do a braid. I'll probably show another approach too, using Maya, where you can kind of basically just create one mesh and then tile it, and then you'll have a braid that way. You could probably turn that, well, not probably, you could definitely turn that into a brush as well, but I wouldn't in this case because it's supposed to be this perfectly straight line, so you might as well just do that wholly in Maya, and then you can add in more details after that. I'm gonna auto group this, and the reason for that is so that I can, isolate select stuff. Camcorder, welcome in. How are you doing? I hope your day's going well. The important thing here too is that I don't that I keep this at a relatively low subdivision level. I think I'm probably too high even right now, but I'm definitely not. I'm not dividing this any further. Probably not even today. I want to make sure that that they're not like super wobbly and all that. Because I'm trying to get this kind of very specific shape language. What do you think is this creation prompt? It's a reference to a Rick and Morty scene. I'm sorry, what? It's a very interesting prompt. Strawberry mice plants? That could either be very cute or very terrifying. Are you gonna make something from that prompt? The mountains are mice, yeah. Now who's depressed? Okay. Probably noodling on this a little too much for this particular stage. Next week we're going to be going over the whole model, and we're just going to be refining different parts of it. Just kind of trying to bring it up to that final level, and then after that we can start doing the game res, which will be fun. I might give us one more week, but we'll see. Yeah, I might give 1 week, like one extra week for polish and stuff like that. I know that a lot of people at this point are probably itching to get into the low poly, but I'd say don't rush it. Make sure that everything is top notch. Okay. That should be good enough for now. If my character's hair is more medium length, would you recommend to place behind her to animate it easier later? Also, hey Jake. So that depends on what the style of the hair is. So do you have a picture of the hair that you are wanting to make? Okay. So now what I'm going to do is there's a vest piece over top. All right, and that kind of wraps around like this. And I might push the wraps in the area that this sits so that it kind of feels a little less chunky. Still working on it, but it's more of all side swooping laying on the left side, if that makes sense. It's a little hard. Do you think could you find a picture that's similar to what you want so that I can visualize it a little easier? If not, I'll try to decipher it a little bit better. Yeah. I think after I get this vest done, the next thing I'm going to do is the boots. Those will probably be more fun to work on. A lot of the clothing so far is pretty boring, I'll admit. Did J. Crew have a name change? Maybe? Probably. It looks a little different, but I'm not absolutely sure. If I see J. Crew, I know that it's J. Crew. So that part is still in there. First to notice, yeah. What was it before J. Crew? I can't remember what exactly changed. I feel like the 3D part might be new, but I could be completely wrong there. Okay, so these are starting to connect, which is bad. So I'm just going to make sure that there's more of a gap there. Okay. Was just numbers before at the end? Oh, that makes sense. Well, I like it. If you don't mind, guys, I'm going to grab myself a little bit of tea, and we're going to have an intermission in a few minutes. I'm going to say, like, whoops. After we finish this shirt, we'll do that. Did I do that thing where I extracted it too high res again? It looks like it. Let's double back. Oh, it was doing it. Oops. Oh well. Oh well. Oh man, I should have just let it go. Oh well. I'll do it a little bit higher. My bad. Sorry, guys. This is decent. Okay. There's some cleanup obviously we'll have to do in order to make this mesh work, as per usual. But that should generally do the trick. Okay. I do like that this is a corner. I do want that, so we're gonna bring that, keep that in. What I do not like is this part. So we'll fix that up. I might just add a split here. What I'm going for is a loop around the arm. So even though this isn't for animation, I do like to have loops in areas that will retain the edges of where I'll put details. Like if I want to put a seam or a stitching along the outer edge of the fabric, I do want to have a loop around the outer edge, just so that it's easier to do all that stuff. It's something to keep in mind, right? For instance, here, this edge is going to get rounded off when I smooth it, and I don't want that, so I'm actually going to add a split here as well. And this is why I don't just go with the direct result of Z model or Z remesh. I do like to clean it up a little bit to get a better result. And it, it doesn't take too much, right? It's just a little bit, and then you'll have a better time at the end of the day. Is the big thing, right? Okay. And if anyone has questions about what I'm doing while I'm working, always feel free to ask. That's the whole point, right? So if I can help in some way, then that's good. Okay. Sorry, this is another quiet moment. Mainly it's just, you know, making things line up, right? So the idea is I'm going to have stitching that goes across this seam here. So I want to make sure that the top lines up. And then you have this nice sharp edge on the bottom and the top. Okay. I'm not a big fan of having a pole right there, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? I could probably add another loop in there to kind of help it out a little. Have you thought of using Marvelous Designer? I have. I've used Marvelous Designer before. So my thought on Marvelous Designer is it doesn't work for all styles, because when you're in some styles you want to have very, very specific folds, and you want to design where your folds are and how they're placed and how they're sculpted, have very specific shapes, which is how I generally like to work. And when you're doing that, Marvelous Designer isn't going to do it because it's an automated process. You're going to get more realistic folds. You can still have a stylized character with more like realistic folding clothing. That's just a different look, but it's not the look that I'm going for. But I have a few models in my portfolio that use Marvelous Designer. So I'm not against that approach. I also believe Cable is going to be using Marvelous Designer for his model for this workshop. Yes, that is right. I don't like when it does that. So I'm going to make sure that I have this closed off first. Okay, now maybe if I delete this edge, it'll hold that polygon. Yep, good. Okay. I could probably delete this now and then insert an edge here. And then we'll bridge these over. All right, so aside from this triangle at the bottom, it's looking pretty good. I could delete an edge around, but I don't think I want to do that. If I add an extra edge, it's going to get a little bit too dense. I don't want to do that either. I have a plan. Actually, here's my plan. This is getting a little bit tight, so what I can do here is move this here. So when I'm talking about topology, I'm always okay with triangles. If you're using them the right way, triangles are fine. But when you're sculpting, triangles are generally bad because they're very difficult to sculpt on. So I try to avoid having triangles in my sculpt mesh. And that's why I have different meshes for sculpting and for the final game res model. But we'll be talking more about topology later when we start getting into that in a couple weeks. Okay. So with that, we have essentially what I wanted us to have. This is probably a little bit higher. Okay. And I'm glad I'm doing this before I finished off the wraps, because this is really going to define how I want the wraps to kind of fit on, right? And I'm probably, again, going to just end up jamming it into the mesh. Going to downflate this, or whatever you want to call it. Downflate, deflate. Let's downflate the mesh, guys. I know how to speak English. That's right. Downflate. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go geometry crease. And I'm going to just set this dynamic for now. Oops. In this early blockout phase, I tend not to worry too much about the details. So but I do want it to feel a little bit softer. So if I keep it in dynamic, then I can kind of get a good preview without getting a really messy mesh. This is going to allow me to it's going to allow me to get things in place without going too far into the details. And I can make sure that this kind of floats off. That was the idea anyway. I wanted to have this split here so that the tail could fit, right? And I'm going to add in like a nice edging to this and all that as well. Folds, of course. Right now it's all very flat and stiff, just kind of sheets that are sitting in place. But that's how you block things out, right? And you just you worry about the little details after. And I'm going to make sure that this kind of fits underneath. Like so. Hey Cage, welcome in. I think I'm starting to lose my voice now. Sounding raspy. I can feel it. I can hear it in my head. Okay. I think that's looking pretty alright. Make sure that this kind of punches in. This isn't realistic clothing wise, it's just aesthetic. Obviously, like, it wouldn't stick that close to the body like that. Although I am gonna have a strap that goes across, so that's partially what's gonna keep things feeling a little bit tighter. There we go. I'm gonna want to crisscross these a little bit too. It's very symmetrical, which is bad. Feels weird, right? So I'm gonna like pull one edge up and stuff like this, right? Just kind of stagger it a little. There we go, we can crisscross it. Crisscross. Yeah. Even having like the whole thing on a bit of an angle so that it's not overly boring. That's a lot better. All right. Now the other great thing about having a mesh that has that nice edging on it is that I can now create a trim object that I can just extract from there, which will be a nice little detail as well. I just tagged you on the Q&A thread on the Discord for the type of hair I mentioned. Great. I'll have a look at it at the end of the stream with when I'm doing reviews and stuff for anyone who wants to have their model looked at. Sound good? Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to duplicate this mesh. I'm going to save too. Save. Or you know what? Do you guys mind giving me 1 second? Because I realized I have no water. I had 1 cup on my desk when we started, and I have nothing else. I'm very thirsty. So if you give me 3 minutes, I will go get some tea and some water, and I'll be right back, and we'll continue on with this, okay? All right. I obviously can't spell. Oh well, whatever. Get that H2O. All right, guys, just give me 1 minute. Alright, thanks for your patience. We're back. I come with tea and water. And we're ready to get going again. Okay. No food? No, it's only 10:30. 10:40. I won't be eating till like 2. And I don't eat on stream either. I had a little bit of cereal before stream. So I'm good. Okay. Let's get those trims in there. So I have a trim that goes up the front. I have a trim that goes along the side. Or the interior here. Okay, so yeah, that's essentially how I'm doing it. There's a thick trim on either of the outer edges here. And then a small trim decal here, which I might just sculpt in, and then I'll have like a nice little beveling on all the edges, but we'll do the beveling and stuff later. Okay. Okay. I might need to adjust this a little bit as far as topology goes, but it should get me most of the way. Mainly in this area here where there's a quad, or like how this is. Like I almost want like one continuous loop for this trim. So I might make some adjustments in order for it to do that. This is another part that's just like, there isn't a lot to say about it. It's pretty easy. I mean, just creating these kind of edgings, right? I guess the thing to keep in mind is like I'm still not actually sculpting, and there probably won't be any like real sculpting this stream, right? Most of it is just kind of getting in meshes, getting things in place, and trying to figure out like what the major volumes are, right? But yeah, there's a lot of poly pushing going on for sure. You can probably do a lot of this in your modeling package as well, but I do love having this kind of move brush. It's a lot easier than like selecting a vert and then moving the vert and stuff like that, because that stuff takes forever. But having your pen, you can just select the vert and just move it. It's nice. It's a much easier way to get things in position. And although I'm calling this a blockout, I am keeping it fairly clean, right? There will be things that I don't keep clean, like any hard surface objects. We'll get to the shoulder pad in a bit. That I'm going to do very, very rough. Similarly with the cape and stuff, that's going to be very rough because I got to get some volumes down, and then we can add more to that later. I sometimes think about if it would be cool to do clothes and Marvelous for characters. You've used it before, right? Yes. So I have used Marvelous before. I own Marvelous, but I don't feel that it works on all aesthetics. So for the style I'm going for, I want to have these kind of very simplistic, very defined folds, very specific, designed, right? So that stuff isn't really going to work for Marvelous because Marvelous, it's a procedural, right? So it's going to give you something that feels realistic. At the same time, you can still have a stylized character with realistic folds, but that isn't always what you're going for, right? I think a great example is like the Final Fantasy series. All those characters are very, very stylized, but their clothing is less so, and the environments are less so. But the anatomy and the forms and stuff are very simplified and specific, right? But I like to define where I'm sculpting in different details. Well, I'm just gonna pour myself some water. Oh dang. I hope I didn't just break my pen. Oh shoot. Okay. I hate when this falls on the floor like that. Is it okay? It seems okay. You can see that, yeah. Yeah, it's again, it all depends on what you want to do. You want to use the right tool for the right job. And I'll always advocate for that, right? If you find a tool that can get something that you want done faster, more efficiently, at a better quality level, you use that tool, right? If you're gonna make your career out of this, you don't want to skimp out, right? Like you want to do everything you can to make the best quality work. I feel like I actually want this to go. I want to have that kind of pinch in the mesh, but I want this to be higher up. Because there's going to be a strap that kind of holds this in place at the top, and I want this to kind of feel like it's getting held in place, right? When you say that, Naz and I were discussing Maya yesterday. Fair enough. Just thinking of like whether or not it's worth investing in it. I will also say that the expensive tool isn't always the best tool for the job either, right? So sometimes you might want to maybe the right tool for you is actually the cheaper tool. So when I say skimp out, it's not about the money. It's about saying like whether or not you want to. It's basically just it's a matter of finding what you need and using that thing, and not like staying pigeonholed where you are, right? Like invest in figuring out what you need and using that tool, right? More about knowledge and time than anything else. Nico, welcome in. And trying to decide on whether or not it's worth learning a whole new tool. Yeah. Okay, hey. I will say that it usually is a good idea to learn as many tools as you can. I make a habit that to use every tool at least once for one project that I can get my hands on. So an example of that is I've used Blender, I've used Studios Max, I've used Maya, Um, and I make sure that I know what I'm getting into, and I can see what works for me, right? I don't want to just say like, oh, this is another tool, and you know, a lot of people are saying it's like not necessarily the best or something like that. I kind of want to actually try it out. Even with I use currently 3D code for my Retopo, but that doesn't mean I haven't tried other tools. I've tried Retopo in Maya, I've tried Retopo in ZBrush, I've tried Retopo in Topogun, and I just came to the conclusion that that was the best tool for the job. Same with engines. I've used a number of game engines. I've used XNA, Unity, UDK, Unreal, Turing? Not Turing. I forget the name of that other one. Torque. And I've used CryEngine. So it's good to know what's out there and kind of explore these avenues. Oh? Oh, did I? What's going on here? Count does not match the mesh points count. Delete or update morph target and try again. Really? Huh. I didn't realize that that relied on morph targets. Huh, I learned something new. I wish that this had polygrouped properly. It didn't. Okay. Then we're gonna go geometry crease, polygroup. Actually, I'm gonna do an all crease. I was hoping that it would crease here, but it didn't. So I'm just gonna manually do that with the with this tool. Edge the parcel, the the Z modeler tool. Of course, the tool that I should remember the name of because I use it all the time. Essentially, like anywhere that I want the shapes to be held, I will add that in. It's worth learning, yeah. Well, it's not just you'll never know who you're going to be working for. It's also you never know what you might stumble across that'll make you faster. Right? So it's all about that, about efficiency and trying to figure out how you can do the best job at the best rate. Really good info, no worries. And you know, like maybe you just don't have the time to invest in all that stuff, and that's also fair, right? So like, it's good to understand all that stuff. You gotta do what works for you, of course. There we go. We're making some decent progress. It's nice that we're finally getting somewhere with this. I'm just gonna add a couple extra supporting edges to make sure that, oops, that it does stay sharp where I want it to. Put one there. I'll probably put one here too. Maybe one up here. Oops. There we go. Cool. And I'm thinking about how things overlap too, so I want to make sure that, you know, the wraps here can fit underneath a little bit. It gives a little bit more believability if things overlap each other, right? If you just stick things into other things, then it feels a little bit flat and strange, right? So it's just good to keep that in mind. Now you'll notice that I am leaving it stick into the neck a little bit because it's going to tuck into a strap that's going to go around the neck. That kind of ties the two sides of the cloth together, right? So it's going to be like a fastener. I am thinking that I want this clothing to be a little bit thicker. I might add a little bit of an inflate to it. There. Are you thinking how this will deform in animation at the moment? I'm not too concerned about it because I know that a lot of this is form-fitting, right? So it's not going to be an issue at all. There's really there's nothing that will actually cause me any problems here. But depending on what you're doing, yeah, you'd want to think about it. Like, here, hold on. Let me. Okay. So I think the number one thing is if you're having sleeves on a character, for example, and say like she had these sleeves that were poofy like this, right? I would avoid putting this on the elbow. This is not going to deform very well. Like what's going to end up happening is if you have this big bulge on the elbow and you try to bend this, this is going to like collapse in and it's going to create this big noisy nonsense, right? So you're going to end up with like these two big pieces of geo that are just going to be like crunching into each other. So you're going to have like this kind of thing where the two shells are this like collapsed into each other. So I'd avoid this. If you're going to have like a poofy sleeve, you're going to want to do something either like this where the poof happens right after the elbow or right before the elbow. Right, so you want to have something like this where it kind of goes like that and then tucks it into something, right? Because then that's just not going to cause any issues. You just don't want to have like thick joints, right? What else can I say? So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing is you don't want to have like big bulky joints. I mean, if you have a big muscular character, I mean there's not much you're gonna do, right? Obviously, they're gonna have like these giant arms, and that's fine. But even like in an anatomy, like you still get this kind of divot anyway. Like your arm is shaped like that. Even on a thick muscular arm, you're not gonna have a muscle just here or whatever. So that's something to consider too. I guess if you have big shoulder pads like my character has, you're gonna like obviously this is gonna be a little bit of a troublesome thing because it's gonna like collapse up into the face, right? Because it's a big bulky thing. But that's just part of having a big shoulder pad, right? You just got to accept that. Capes are also a little bit of an issue, right? So the character does have a cape. I've done this stuff so many times that I'm not super concerned about it. I know how to deal with this, and I'll show it when we get to rigging. It's not perfect, but it gives you a good result, right? So like this stuff I can kind of deal with. It's not easy to deal with this stuff, but you can definitely deal with it. Yeah, so that's something else to keep in mind. And then there's like this little thing there, which is not a problem at all. Yeah. How you delete the geometry under the leg wraps? So this is still the high poly mesh doll. When we go into the low poly, we're not even going to have that there. In fact, we're probably going to bake the skin and the clothing into the same mesh. Because it is skin tight. Yeah. Now, that's also not always going to work. Keep in mind, if you have like a skin shader or something, you might want to have the skin completely separate from the body if you're going for something more realistic. But for what we're doing, it's fine. Hey, Mark, welcome in. All right, so okay. Well, we're making some progress. I'm thinking of where I want to go next, and that could either be the boots or the shoulder pad. I might do the boots next. The boots should be fun. Also, I think this is supposed to be a little bit lower. I want to add a little bit of an angle to this to make it a little bit more interesting. Okay. All right, we're getting there. Yeah. See, another stylistic thing I chose to do is I created a very small rib cage. I'm not sure whether I like that decision or not. I might end up pulling that out. Right, so I might do something like this. But we'll see. Stuff like that is still up in the air. That's why I say like you're okay to change the anatomy and stuff a little bit, but you want to get as close as you can before you start adding clothing because it only gets harder to deal with. I also want this to be a little bit rounder, right? It's this very sharp corner, which isn't what I was going for. I was originally wondering whether I want to actually mount or like merge the tail and the body. Given how obscure that is, I probably won't. You can barely see it. But we'll see. Because it's going to be a huge pain to kind of weld those together. I got to balance out whether or not it's worth it. But yeah, let's get onto the boots. Let's get onto the boots. So the boots are going to be a little bit of a thing because they're asymmetrical. Because I like pain, right? Sorry, I'm just stretching for a second. Okay. All right. So we're gonna figure out two things. One, we're gonna do the sole of the shoe, which is gonna be the same on both sides. I'm not gonna create asymmetrical shoe soles. That would be a pain. Too much of a pain. Imagine animating a walk cycle where one had like a higher heel than the other. Oh my god, that'd be brutal. I'm still contemplating whether I actually want her to have like heels on her boots. It seems kind of dumb, but whatever. We did it. Let's just extract our mesh here. So I'm going to extract everything except for the toes. You know what? I might do the knee-high boots, and then I can remove the topology. If I do them both like this, then I can remove the excess, and that'll make my life a little bit easier. I think that's a good plan. Okay. And then the reason I don't include the toes is because there's like a little divot in it, right? Let's just extract that. Yeah, that looks alright. And then what we're going to do is we're going to delete the interior. Modify topology, delete hidden. And we're going to close off the boots. Close holes. Okay. And now we're going to just make sure that this covers the toes. We're just going to sculpt into this a little bit. Start getting that shoe shape going. Finally, we're actually doing some real sculpting. Oh boy. Isn't that exciting? So yeah, I'll be fully honest. Like my process is very technical, very procedural, right? So I have very specific steps that I follow to keep things clean. So obviously I do very limited amounts of true sculpting on the clothing until I get to the very end, right, where I start actually adding in all the details and making things like feel a little bit more organic. Oops, I made a mistake here. Clearly. I accidentally had the whole body masked. There we go. That's better. Make sure I get rid of the mask on the body so that I don't make that mistake again. Okay. Yes. Now what I want to do is probably this is a good spot to Z remesh it. So let's do that. Hold on. Actually, let's one thing. We're gonna polygroup this. I want to make sure that the bottom of the feet has a polygroup. So that way, when if I keep polygroups, it'll work a little nicer. Oh, hold on. I shouldn't have polygrouped everything like that. Wait. I'm gonna do this. Polygroup that. The reason why I masked it is because the top and the bottom polygroups were the same. And I want to make sure that I didn't combine the upper part there. I want to make sure that that keeps the poly group so that I get a nice edge up there as well as on the bottom. All right. Polygroups are a great way to get topology to work how you want. It doesn't always work, but you'll get, for simpler things, it'll do the job. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a Z-remesh. Not keep greases, keep groups. We'll put this fairly low. Wait for it to go. Just takes a second. Too many seconds. Oh, there it goes. There we go. Okay. So it's not perfect, but we got a nice clean loop at the bottom, and most of the loop on the bottom. Yeah, so it did like a little bit of this nonsense. We can clean that up. I do want to make sure that it has a consistent loop that goes around. It does. That's what I cared about most. Was that. This extra stuff we can fix that. Let's just go in there and we'll just stitch that up. There we go. No problem, right? Easy. Now we'll just make sure that the whole bottom of the foot is covered in blue in this case. All right, and we got a decent mesh now. I'm going to hold on to this as a backup because I'm going to start messing things up now. So the big thing here is that the left shoe, I'm going to want to actually get rid of the bottom. The reason for that is because it splays out at the top and has this kind of seam down the side. So in order to support that, I'm going to want to actually split this up. But I want to split it all the way to the bottom, so I'm going to want to remove the sole. I could probably remove the sole from the other side too, but there's no reason to. I do want to turn off symmetry, so now we're going to start splitting these up and making them asymmetrical. So this guy doesn't go as high, so that one's going to be closed off at the top. You know what I might do actually? To make my life a little bit easier and keep this cap that I already have, I'm going to just delete all the edges here, and I'm just going to move that one piece all the way down to this bottom area. That way, oops. That way, I don't have to worry about it so much, eh? Look at that. It's already capped. Nice. We'll just make this whole top polygrouped. Ah. Isn't that fantastic? I think that's pretty cool. As you're working, you're gonna want to, find little techniques for yourself that'll make work faster. So you can spend time on the things that are important. That's why I always say it's good to like explore new tools and stuff like that, because it's constantly a matter of being able to just make more cool things, right? Okay. So this guy's going to be a little bit trickier. We're going to delete all that stuff. I want to have a nice streak that goes all the way down to the bottom. I thought that would look nice. I'm gonna hit the home button because ZBrush is starting to get those sticky keys. I've said this a few times, but sometimes ZBrush will won't react to your brush very well. It'll start just like getting stuck as you're trying to draw. That happens. Just hitting the home key usually fixes it. Okay. I didn't really need that to be like that, but whatever, it's fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Z modeler here. We're going to insert an edge loop right like that. See? We're going to delete that polygon. Oops. Or polygon strip, I should say. It's multiple polygons. Let's make sure that I have everything that I need. Delete hidden. Okay. All right. So this one will be a little bit trickier. What I want to do is I want to have this splay out at the top. So what I'm going to do is mask out the top. Maybe not that much. Like that, maybe? Do I want to do this now or later? The more I think about it, the more I think maybe later is better, but no. No, I'm going to do it this way. Okay, so we're going to then take our move tool, our friendly neighborhood move tool, and we're just going to splay the top out. So what I did was I masked just the top strip and then I faded off the mask. Now I get this nice little taper, right? And that's pretty nice. And then we're just going to move this over. Oh, look at that. Pretty neat, right? And I do think that we want to make this a little bit shorter. I'm going to move this down. I am realizing that I may have made a mistake. This fabric is supposed to go a little bit higher up on the leg, and it doesn't. So I might have to adjust that later, unfortunately. That's okay. That's why you want to block everything out before you go into too much detail. So like fixing that isn't such a big deal at this stage. I haven't gone in and sculpted in all these folds and stuff like that. If I had, then it would have been a little bit more of a pain to deal with. But that's okay, because we are prepared. Definitely see the necessity of not digging into the details just yet, yeah. Yeah, the problem is like there's a little cloth here that you can see, right? And it ends around just above the knee. Or no, it's a little higher than that actually. It goes to about here, but it's supposed to go here. It's supposed to peak up just above the boot. So that's something to keep in mind. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, well not create, but I'm going to overlap these a little bit now. So this goes all the way down the leg. And I might actually thin the underbody a little bit because these boots are adding a lot of thickness that I just didn't want to have on this part of the leg. I kind of wanted the legs to taper off at the bottom. And again, that's another like a note on realism and stylization is that obviously doesn't make sense. Right? You're not going to have like these little tiny stick legs, but to get the feeling that I want, we will. We will thin out the leg a little bit so that the boot doesn't feel so chunky. Now the thing I want to keep in mind here is which side is over top of the other. So in my original design, the buttons are on the front here, right? Because the buttons are on the front, I know that this side is supposed to be underneath the other side. Because that's just how buttons work. Yeah. The button would have to be on the side that's underneath in order to fit through the holes and fasten everything in place, right? Now this is going to have a bunch of missing buttons. It's only going to have a few at the top, and then the rest is going to be straps. And I think the plan for next week is we're going to be going over some hard surface stuff. So I will block in the shoulder pad, but we'll be doing the actual proper Maya model as well as I think the sword as well next weekend, and kind of getting that into place. And also like all the little buttons and buckles and stuff like that. I might do, I'll finish this block out off stream. So anything that I don't finish, like the extra belts and straps and cloth and stuff like that, I will all make sure is done beforehand because we need to have everything in place. But everything that I'm showing you here is the exact same process for everything that I'll be continuing offline. Hey, Orange. I got a cute video recommended to me on YouTube featuring your rig. Oh, which one? That's fun. I am feeling that her head is too big. We had this discussion way back. I might shrink her head a little bit. Whoa. Uh-oh. Oh, it's like, wait a minute, why is this playing double? Oh, it's this one. Yeah. It turned out really well. Yeah. I seen it in several phases. It's a pretty popular one on Twitter. I like this one a lot. It's one of my favorites. I think the big hair and horns make her head seem bigger. Yeah. It's true that it does make her head seem bigger. So I don't want to do anything until I have like all the cape and the shoulder armor in place. But I still think I might make her head a little bit smaller. If I just look at the anatomy plane, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's not too bad. But anyway, we'll figure it out. One step at a time, right? I hope your day's going well, Orange. Thanks for hanging out. There we go. Oh, and I want to make sure that I flip the visibility. There. So now we have two asymmetrical boots. But I also got to make this little top part that sits over on there. Like there's a little flap that goes over. This one's gonna have a little seam in the front, but that I'll just sculpt in. That one, it doesn't overlap. Because this one overlaps, I want to make sure that it was actually in the geometry. Yeah. Okay. I'm doing okay. It's been a busy week, but productive. Nice. Well, I'm glad it's been productive. Okay, so now we're gonna make the shoe soles now. And then we'll go in and we'll start refining the boots a little bit. Just a little. Maybe not too much. I don't know. Maybe it's too soon to do that, but maybe we'll do it a little bit. Okay. Alright, so I tend to like to just use this as a base. Okay. And now that I have something here, I can just clean up this geometry so that it's not so messy. And I can get rid of the extra loops that are inside. Okay. So I'm making a decision here as to how much I want to have in here. Usually I keep it pretty low. I don't tend to have a lot of divisions going across the interior of the foot, so I might end up removing that. Because I want to have a nice clean flat base, right? So let's do something like that. So we're going to insert a loop here. I'm going to stitch that. Whoops. There we go. Ooh. Come on, please. Sometimes it's a little bit hard. I should probably reduce my brush size. It's usually recommended to start at a brush size of 1 when you're doing this. Oops, I made a mistake. What I want to do actually is this and delete. Yeah, it'll be fine. There we go. Then we're going to go to the insert. We're actually going to hit Alt. If you hit Alt, it obviously does the inverse of the insert, and then we'll remove those edges. I'm going to insert one more loop here. And that way, I can just bridge this over to here and this to here. Great. So now, I want to make sure that the edges are, you know, kind of going directly across the foot, because I'm going to be creating, what's it called? I'm going to be creating a kind of a slope. A slope is the word I was looking for. It's funny when you like forget a really simple word. I'm going to turn perspective off because I want to make sure that this is very flat, right? Otherwise you're going to have like this kind of wobbly base, and we don't want that. Now I'm just going to make sure that I have a nice foot shape, right? For the sole of the shoe. Okay. Now, one thing that I'm thinking of now, this is something that'll be a little bit different. Normally I'll extrude the mesh after I add the curvature to the sole, or the slope, but this time I think I might extrude it first so that I can see it from the side. This will be just a little exploration. I think this is going to be a better approach than my normal approach. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to extrude this a little bit. Oh. Oops, hold on. Interesting, if you hit shift and you extrude, it just offset it. I actually didn't expect that behavior. Okay, so now what I do is I'm going to make sure that I place it where I want the bottom of the foot to be, which I think will be somewhere around here. I'm gonna have to adjust the toes and stuff on the body. That's okay. I'm gonna rotate this a little bit into place so I can see that I'm a little bit off. I'll use the move brush a little bit so that it kind of fits the shape of the foot a little bit better. See right now that it's not. Right. Cool. And then we're going to take our boot here, and we're going to just offset it a little bit at a time. Just go through each little stretch, right? And kind of give that slope that I was talking about. So normally I don't have it extruded like this beforehand, so you can't really tell where you're placing it, which is really stupid of me. So doing it this way is a lot better. And then what I do is I take, because this character, any boot's gonna have a heel for the most part, unless you have like moccasins or something, then it doesn't have a heel. Some shoes, of course, will be completely flat. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time selecting what I want. Sorry, guys. There it is. Okay. Let's make sure that I don't have any excess. I'm going to polygroup that now. And then we're going to extrude this for the heel, right? Boom. And I try to make sure that that's pretty much aligned with the where the toe hits the ground. And the way I do that is I use the move brush with the transpose tool. And I scale it down, or use the move, sorry. I use move, but I use the scale feature to kind of like squish it down to line up. Also, the heel's gonna taper, obviously, right? So we're gonna wanna make sure that we put our cursor there, and we just scale it in a little, like so. Wish I knew about this method for shoes back in college. Well, now you know. Now you know. You're back, all right, Savannah. I'm not going to worry about subdividing that just yet. I will mirror it though. Mirror and weld. Oops, hold on. I gotta turn off local symmetry first. There we go. And now we can make sure that this fits into place. And obviously I'm gonna have to fix the foot underneath as well, because it doesn't quite match this. But that's okay. I'm just going to make sure that everything kind of sits into place. I think our heels are supposed to be a little bit higher, but I did reduce them a little because it felt strange to me. It was too much, and it was kind of out of character. It's important to make sure that you understand your character very well when you're making them. Because sometimes you're going to have to make decisions, right? Not everything will feel right when you translate to 3D for one, and two, sometimes just things are off, right? In the design, you're just like, you know what, that's not quite right. And you gotta say like, okay, well, this character is more like this, and you kind of gotta interpolate. And sometimes you'll also have technical limitations. You'll be like, well, I can only do this, so I have to I have to make sure that it still feels like the character, but meets these technical requirements. Welcome back, Savannah. I think the best example I can think of is rig sharing. So an experience that I've had is rig sharing, where basically characters have to share the same skeleton, same animations. And the issue that came up was that some characters had high heels and some characters did not. But they couldn't share a rig if they had high heels. So we ended up having to remove the high heels and then redesigning their shoes and feet to still feel like them, but you know, meet that technical requirement. So stuff like that happens, right? So as a 3D artist, these are things that you're going to have to creatively adjust yourself. Sometimes you might get concepts for these changes, but not always. Usually once it gets into 3D, you're going to be doing a little bit of concepting in the 3D, even at a company that has fully fledged designs. Of course, that also varies depending on the company, right? So like I've been at companies that are very, very strict and very, very stiff, right? They have a very specific pipeline and they don't want to change it. Things like that, right? Whereas other companies are looser and they're like, yeah, you can kind of mix it up a little bit. So sometimes you'll be working with a very blueprint design, and sometimes you'll be working with something that's a lot more vague. And you're going to want to be prepared for both of those things. I saw they did the reverse in Genshin. All the non-children women have to wear heels because they made the rig with no... Yes! Yeah. But the problem arrives when you have male and female characters on the same rig, right? And that's why we had to have go the no heel route, right? Also, like, the places I've worked are much more grounded in that way, right? Because when you see a game like Genshin, these characters are explorers, but they have high heels, and that makes no sense, right? It's just like, are you gonna go freaking hiking in high heels? No. So like where I've worked, it's like it's more grounded and stuff like that. But things like Genshin, they care more about the aesthetic, right? So they're like, it looks cool to have high heels. So they do it even if it doesn't technically make sense. And this is stuff that I also mentioned when I was doing the character design segment of this, is like some design elements you're just going to do for the sake of aesthetic. Some things you're going to do for the sake of the character. And I think both are fine. You'll get some huge naysayers though. They're like, no, it has to be completely practical all the time. And to that I say I don't really care. I'll be honest, I don't care. I think to me what matters most is the final appeal of it. And you can use the characteristics of the character and their personality and stuff to inform your decisions. But I think that you shouldn't feel bound, right? They obviously are using 6 specific rigs: child, male, female, teen, male, female, adult, male, female. Yeah. Genshin character design is more about, let's make this character look cool in the promo images with no real concern for how the game actually plays. Yes. And I think that's fine. You just got to choose what you want. Also, this is... I forgot to... Oh, okay. I forgot to turn on symmetry. You can see that these are now different. I am an idiot. That's okay. We'll fix it. Alright. Oh. That's not how we'll fix it, though. Oh, it did it anyway. Okay. Modify topology. Delete hidden. Mirror weld. And now we turn on symmetry. Now they're symmetrical. Great. Also, ostensibly, I actually don't know that word. Ostensibly, the only character actually doing the adventuring lore-wise is the main character, who is still dressed highly impractically. Yeah, the main character is dressed pretty impractically, but it's still fun. The other characters do adventuring though too in the story. They're just not adventuring with you specifically. But they're going around doing stuff, and sometimes they'll go on quests with you and things like that, right? So that stuff still happens. They're still doing those things, even if it's not you specifically, or with you specifically. Lots of long flowing hair and capes and things. Yeah, so this design here that I'm currently working on,
is very aesthetic. It's not too much involved with the actual character. There are elements that I pulled into it, so I did keep that in mind. But there's clearly stuff that's aesthetic. Like these high heels just don't make any sense. It just looks nice, right? And I said that too. It's just like, yeah, a lot of the design calls I'm making are specifically for aesthetic reasons. And sometimes I'll even like give them plot reasons to have aesthetic after I come up with things, right? So I'm just like, oh, this looks cool. I want them to have this. And then that kind of drives their character and their story, right? Which is fun. I think it's good to kind of keep it loose like that. I think that people don't need to be quite so rigid. You know, why do you have to be so serious all the time? You know what I'm saying? Oops, that's not what I wanted. Oh, hold on. I gotta turn off symmetry for a second. I just want to add an extra edge in here because this topology is just not doing it for me. There we go. I'll just stitch that down. Oh. Nope. Hold on. I've made a mistake. It's okay. It's okay. We got this. I need to insert an edge here too. Okay. There we go. No worries. Sometimes it's just really hard to select that edge. There we go. I'll just polygroup that. Oh, this one's going to be a challenge. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I think I got to hide some of the polygons here or something. I don't even know if this is going to work. Ooh. Oh no. Oh. Okay. I think it worked. I hope so. Okay, cool. I should have done that before I extruded it, but you know, you make mistakes. All of the characters are just mysteriously present when you play them. It's true. I guess you're right. They do a bunch of stuff off screen. Yeah, yeah. They're always talking about like, oh, I went here, or oh, I went to the ruins, and whatever, right? I have a good reason for putting my combat game's main character with the long flowing hair. It's not just aesthetic, but it serves as gameplay purpose for creating the motion trail for the player to... Yes, that is true too. It can have mechanical purposes, like gameplay purposes. Which is also, I think that's my favorite part about like creating characters for games is they often have these really over-the-top designs for gameplay reasons as well. Because you want your character to read on screen, right? So they'll have like these really bright, vibrant colors and stuff like that, which makes it really fun. But yeah, in short, like design isn't just a stiff thing, right? You gotta, you know, be willing to play around with it a little bit and keep loose. Okay, so I do wanna like taper off the legs a little bit now. It's definitely feeling way too chunky. So I'm gonna tighten that up. which will mean that I have to move the underbody a little bit, but that's okay. Again, you just do whatever you gotta to get the shape language you want. And some might be asking, it's like, oh, then why did you spend so much time on the anatomy? So even though I move things around after I start adding clothing, I still check it. Like I'll go in and I'll look at the anatomy and like, does it feel really, really wrong? And if it does, then I'll be like, okay, well maybe I'll pull back a little, right? If the leg starts feeling like it's twisted or warped or kinked, then you're like, okay, then I know that there's something wrong here. And I'll make adjustments, and then I'll have to adjust the outer clothing to match. But the big thing is just don't be so stiff, you know? Be loose, but it's good to have that kind of reference in order to kind of inform you if something doesn't feel right and you don't know why, right? If you're looking at it, it's just like something feels wrong. Now you can look at it in more ways. You can be like, okay, well, it's like on an anatomical level, because if you look at the anatomy is a little bit weird, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just take this top part and I'm just going to pull it up. Oops. Turn off symmetry. I'm going to reduce the subdivision levels for this. This isn't ideal, I'll be honest, but that's okay. You know, you just gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. That's too high. Okay. There we go. Better. I want to keep that kind of angle that I had before, where like one goes up and the other goes down. So you can see like I have this kind of crisscross here. Makes it a little bit more interesting. But you can see like my topology is all jacked up now. Part of me feels like I should just go down to the lower levels and subdivide it, but we'll see. I don't want to go through too much trouble. I will make sure that it doesn't have like this kind of nonsense where part of it is just dipping. When you make major moves like this, it's good to keep an eye on your topology. Just KN is now following. Thank you for following. Welcome in. All right. I might just go around the whole thing and just soften this up a little bit. There we go. I'm just making sure that the polygons are somewhat evenly spaced so that I can have something that's a little bit more reasonable to work with when I'm sculpting. If I want to like add a little bit of details or kind of make sure that it fits the underlying form a little better. This won't matter too much because you barely see it, but that's good practice, you know? There we go. So now it's the right height. And although I have these rectangular polygons, which isn't necessarily ideal, it'll still work. We'll get rid of, we'll fix this little wobbly edge a little. Yeah. There. There. No one has to know that we made a horrible mistake. And at the very end, I'll add like the pressure of this fabric. So I'll make the skin kind of flare or bulge around there or dip in where the elastic would be, right? But I do that at the end because again, like I might be moving these things around. I don't want to add those details and then move it and be like, oh no, I got to do it all over again. You know what I'm saying? So that stuff will come at the end. That'll probably be next week's thing where we start polishing stuff out. Just remember, Topo can be fun. Okay, one. Glad you like the knees. I'll admit I struggled. I struggled a lot. Yeah, knees and elbows have always been my weaker areas, but I'm glad you like them. Can be, yeah. There we go. So we're making good progress on this blockout now. That's good. But then again, I loathe rigging and weight painting more though. I've only done it once. Weight painting is a pain. The thing about weight painting is it's so finicky because like something can look good at one pose and look terrible at another pose, right? It's challenging. But that's okay. You know what? That's the whole thing about the like the character creation process is like you're gonna have to go through some hurdles, right? Not everything is just cut and dry. All right, so we're gonna make this bracer next. That'll be fun. I'm gonna save. I haven't saved in a bit. I didn't even save when who was it that was saying I should save? I think it was Scott who was saying I should save. I didn't. As I don't. I tend not to save, guys. Don't be like me. Saving is not part of my vocabulary. Okay, so I'm just gonna, for stuff like this, where the fingers are involved, I tend to just use the original mesh and inflate it for like gloves and stuff. Things that have like more complex areas, that's what I'll do. Okay. And I'm not sure how far up the arm I want it to go. Probably around here. I think that's a good ways up the arm for the bracer. Also, I have symmetry on. We're not supposed to have that on. We're gonna remove all this excess. He only has bracer on one hand, because other hand is dragon hand. Dragon hand does not need bracer. Yes. Why would you want to bracer on a dragon hand? That's just silly. Okay. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to split this here because the bracer overlaps at the wrist. So there's kind of like a glove underneath and then the outer wrap on top. So this is going to be two pieces, and I'm probably going to just split it, actually. So I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that for later. And we're just going to do the glove part. So we'll remove this. That way I can have a little bit of an overlap. Which is already retopologized? None of it. Well, it's retopologized enough for sculpting, but we haven't done any of the actual proper retopo yet. We just did enough for like actually getting the high poly done, and then we're going to go through it again for the game res model.
I want to make sure that there's enough space for the overlap. I think this will be fine. I could maybe take one extra loop. What? Hey. I could have sworn I deleted the hidden stuff. Apparently not. I'll give it one extra loop. It's better to have a little more than a little less. Because this would be a really pain in the ass to wave paint. Yeah, no, you don't. You don't wave paint a sculpt mesh. Look at this. I would not in 1,000 years try to rig this. Look, there's a freaking triangle. Not triangle, but diamond right in the middle there. And like none of these match. They're all different. It's just good enough to sculpt on. It's not actually a good mesh. No. Don't try that. That's why I say, like, never auto retopo a riggable mesh, because like that's just not gonna work for you. Yeah. That's what I was asking. Okay, yeah, that is a very good clarification. Thank you for following, Rick. You know, actually for this, I'm just gonna cap off all the holes. I think that's gonna do a better job for us. I don't want to actually have an interior because I don't need one. And we're just gonna bridge everything across and close up this hole. Okay. What do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect! That's perfect. All right, great. I love it when it's even numbers. Although it has to be an even number. I'm being stupid. There's no way it couldn't be an even number because there's no triangles. If there's no triangles in the hand, there's no way that the end could be an uneven number. Fun fact. When I was doing models for animation, obviously you would never want to have, well, not never, but you tend not to want to have triangles in a lot of places, right? You can hide them in places, but for the most part you don't want them. And a lot of the times there'll be like no triangles, right? There's exceptions if you really need them, but you don't want them. In games, everything's triangulated. Nothing gets subdivided, so triangles are good and fine, right? You use them to your advantage. Anyway, my point being that if you wanted to have a hand that had no triangles in it, you got to make sure that the loops going down the arm are an even number. If they're an odd number, you're going to have a triangle no matter what you do. It's obvious, but you don't necessarily think of it all the time. Few as possible, yeah. Is this a new rig? No, this is for a workshop that I'm hosting right now, Lone Wolf. Gotta reduce my brush size. It's like in my face. Why are you using a brush that big? I don't know. Why not? I wanna. You can't tell me what to do. Oh. Yeah. I could have probably just done like a close holes operation on these. I think I will. Hold on. Let me just do that. Cool. Don't worry, I'll fix it. I know it looks terrible. Give me a minute. Alright. Then set. Polygroup all. Standard. Okay. So. There. And then what we do is you merge the triangles. And this won't be perfect either, but it'll be enough for sculpting. Because I don't really care what's happening in the center here at all.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, where's the merge tries? There. Boom. And we can clean this up a little bit, so it's not a complete disaster. I don't know why there's a triangle here. That's okay. We'll just spin it. Spin. Oop. There. No, not like this. And we'll spin that. Give her a spin. There. That looks pretty decent. I don't know how I feel about this, but it'll be okay. Do I want to fix it? I don't think I do. Kind of want to get rid of these triangles, but again, I don't really care too much about this area. All right, cool. And then I'll maybe fix this one too. Spin that. And we'll delete these edges. There you go. Perfect. That looks pretty decent to me. I think that's fine. Hey Titan Roboduck, how are you doing? And Netix3DX, thank you for following. Isn't there an autofill option that makes you only quads? Not that I know of. It always just triangulates it. And then you can, you know, combine the triangles. And ZBrush does look a little bit weird. You have to get used to it for sure. There's a learning curve. But I really do enjoy the ZBrush interface. Once you get a handle on it, I think it's pretty nice to work with. I will say that I'm one of a few who think that, but I do like it. How much would you dislike if I deviated ever so slightly from the original design drawing? Well, it's entirely up to you, right? So here's the thing about designs. There are a number of different ways you can approach it and ways you can think about it. Like I said before, you're going to come across different types of companies. Uh-oh. Oh no, guys. Oh god, thank you. I thought I deleted the whole body. I'm like, no. Okay, good. All right, anyway, back to what I was saying. So there's some companies that are going to want you to work very cookie cutter, and there are some companies that want you to work more loosely. And you can have anything from very loose to everything in between. So my first job was very, very cookie cutter. It was a show that had been on for a long time. They had a specific way they wanted to do things, and if you deviated it even a little bit to make things a little bit, like, just to kind of, even in your opinion, make things a little bit better, you'd have to knock it back because it just doesn't fit that show, right? So everything had like this very specific design and process, and they didn't want you kind of exploring a bit as a 3D artist. They wanted you to be very like, this is the design, it has to look exactly like this, you got to use these specific parts. In fact, they would even highlight parts from other characters or other props, and they'd be like, use these parts and mix and match them. So essentially you're doing like a character creator thing where you're just like using old parts and placing them around. It was a very interesting place to work. I could probably talk a little bit more about that. I don't want to like talk too much about the studio on like a live stream, but if anyone wanted to talk about that, I can offline. So there was so there's that, and then you have something that's a little bit looser. So you can have a company where they'll be like, okay, here's your design. You get like maybe like a 3/4 drawing. So like currently where I work, I actually usually don't. Oh, lately I've been getting back views, but like there's a few characters where I just didn't get a full, not even a full back view, just a front view. And I've had like a few indies that are like that too. So these are usually smaller companies where they don't have enough budget to really go through and create a full design. Mind you, I have heard that some companies that do have a high budget still kind of want you to stay loose. I hear Riot is that way, where they like to do a lot of designing in 3D. So they keep things fairly loose, but I haven't worked there, so I don't know for sure. Where was I? Yeah, so anyways, yeah, so from my experience, I've just had some companies where they just provide you a very loose design. They're like, okay, you got to do something based off of this. And things will start changing as you're designing, and you'll have to kind of make it your own and make it work. And you can have different degrees of that. So like some people want you to be more loose and some people will want you to be less loose. Some people will want you to have like fully free reign. And they'll be like, just make whatever you want based off of this design, which is, it becomes a little bit harder because at that point you're also designing and it takes a bit longer. But that happens. And then other times they're just like, you know what, we want you to mix around with it, but we really want to like art direct it, right? So it's kind of in the space where you'll be getting drawovers as you're 3D modeling and you're kind of adjusting that way. And sorry, that's a huge tangent, right? But I just want to like go into my whole point about like changing your design afterwards. Sometimes you don't want to change your design afterwards because you could end up in a space like as an individual. I try not to change my design too much after I started because then you end up in this loop where you keep changing things and nothing gets done, right? So you have to be like, okay, I need to get things done. So I have this design and I want to stick to it. Even if I start sculpting and it's not necessarily fully what I want, that's okay. You know, sometimes it's just not perfect, but you know, you got to move on. You got to create things, right? You don't want to be noodling the same thing forever. At least that's me, right? So sometimes you do want that. And I think as I've gone further on in my career, I want that more and more because now I have volume to my portfolio and I have a history and I've done so many things that I've come to the point where I just want to make something really polished and cool. So that's when you start saying like, okay, now things can change up. I'm not doing that for this particular workshop because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're all following along, and I don't want to like suddenly deviate off this path and go somewhere else. So I'm staying right with the design and I'm just doing whatever changes I need to make it work. But I'm not changing anything because I want to make sure that the process is clear and concise. Yeah. That's pretty much all I had to say about designs and stuff. So the long answer is that long rant. The short answer is if you feel like changing the design in 3D is what makes sense for your process, do it. But just have an understanding of like how design works and how things can change depending on the context of where you're working and what you're trying to do. So it really depends on what you want, right? I'm not going to be bothered if you start deviating things in the design because that happens all the time in a company. Like things change completely, and I wouldn't worry too much. Yeah. Let me catch up on these questions. I'm doing okay, or not questions, but statements. I'm doing okay. I wanted to sketch a face, part of my animation. Want to see. I'll have a look after the stream, or at the end of the stream, Titan. I just want to make sure that I get through this whole process, and when we start doing the review, I'll look at stuff. Did I miss your response? Kind of zoned out. No. I hadn't gotten there yet. I was ranting. Sorry about that. I hope. Oops! I just moved the whole screen. Uh-oh. Okay. Whew. Hold on. Let me just get more music up for myself. Sorry, you guys can't hear the music because, again, I need it to be quiet for the VOD. Okay. Anyway, now that I've capped this off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this. Hold on, I'm actually going to crease it. Crease polygroup. I'm going to set this to 1. We're going to divide it. Oh, hold on, I also want to create a morph target. Divide it. And we're going to use this selection. We're going to project it. Okay. Okay. Maybe we'll divide it one more time and project it one more time. Thanks for the explanation. And yeah, it's not tremendous designs. It's just stuff like, oh, I drew it this way. As I do in 3D, it doesn't make sense. Oh, 100%. That stuff you're going to change. So I did that myself, and I can show you one example that's very obvious. Is the eye patch. So she, in the design, has a strap that goes down here across her face. Doesn't make sense because her nose is there. Right? It's just like, that doesn't work. In like a stylized look, maybe like you have a design where there's like a flatter nose or something like that. At that point, you could have it go across like that. And also, my concept is much more cartoony, and it makes more sense there. But because this is more like a more realistic or anatomically correct face, it just didn't work. And I probably should have looked at designs for eye patches before that, before I started. But you know, it's just how it goes, right? Now I'll divide this one more time. We're going to inflate it. Ah, not like this. That is too inflate. All right. Let's do a morph target. Cool. We got a glove. We'd probably inflate it a little bit more if we wanted to, but I'm actually just going to inflate the fingertips because I want it to. I don't want it to feel bulky, right? I want it to be like a nice form-fitting glove. Yeah. But I want it to like not be too bulky in the silhouette, but I want it to feel like it has volume, and that's why I'll be inflating the tips a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So after this, I'm going to block in the shoulder pad and maybe some belt straps, and that should probably do it for today. It's just enough to show you the whole process. Or, you know, maybe I should block in the cape because that's probably more important. Ray Samuel Pro, hello. How are you doing, friend? Okay, I'm just going to extrude this. This probably could have been capped on the top and bottom too, actually. Let's do that. Okay. This one I want to properly bridge, I think. I hope I'm doing this right. We'll find out at the end when I do it wrong. We'll just insert. I won't be super worried if it's a little bit off. Oops. Go. I think it's kind of fun to try to figure out how to make 2D elements work in 3D. Oh, it's really fun. I actually go out of my way to find designs that I don't think would work in 3D and then translate them. I love doing that. I haven't done it in a while. But like making designs or models that are just purely art pieces is a good time. Yeah, I did do this wrong, but that's okay. Sorry. This one I'm not going to project because I don't want it to retain the details of the underarm because it's supposed to be a thicker material. Increase polygroup. I'll just set this one to dynamic. Fix mesh? Okay. I don't know why that one is having trouble. I think I might have accidentally had an overlapping polygon or something. That's okay. We're fine. No worries. I want to inflate it a little bit more. There. Might be too much. That's too much actually. I'm gonna have the trimming be a little bit thicker. Yeah. I'm sometimes amazed at my ability to make Blender crash. I think all software tends to crash rather often. It's just the reality of our world. All right, so I'm going to show you quickly how I deal with like armor and pouches and stuff. So all this stuff I'm going to do very, very roughly right now. We're going to later be going to Maya, and we're going to properly model all that stuff. But for the time being, what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to extract a mesh, and we're just going to figure out our volumes, right? Because that's all that matters to us at the moment. So I'm not being too precious about this. I can just extract whatever I want. I might do these all in one mass actually. Well, maybe. No, actually no. I'm gonna do them separately. Thought about it. I was like, nah, never mind. Okay. So. Subtool, and where is my extract? There it is. Accept. Make sure that this is the only thing I have. Good. If I turn on, yeah, I could probably do this. So I'm going to do local symmetry. I'm going to put symmetry on, but I want to have it symmetry in the Z axis, like so. All right. Let's see how it looks like if I mirror and weld this. Perfect, actually. That'll work great. Okay. So now I'm just going to inflate this mesh with our symmetry. And we're going to get this figured out. And already this is really helping the character because like a lot of the clothing is just kind of not interesting. It's very, form-fitting, right? So. It's a silly design, I'm gonna admit. But it's not like I spent a lot of time designing. Normally you'd want to spend a good amount of time getting your design down. A lot of this is a little bit, you know, less thought out than I would like it to be. But we gotta like, the whole point is just kind of show you the process, right? It's not about doing the most perfect thing ever. But right now I'm just kind of figuring this out. I'm gonna turn on Dynamesh. And yeah, I don't care about too much of the details at all. I just trying to, I want to figure out, okay, how big are the pieces? Where do things overlap? Stuff like that, right? I don't care about it being, you know, mushy or soft. I'm just, you know, keeping it loose, figuring it out. And this is always the fun part, right? Just not worrying about the details, and you're just, you know, going to town. So I want this to be a plate on top. Then there's another piece that kind of sits on top like this. Checking out a new feature crash use switching between the sculpt tool crash, checking out a new feature crash and looking at the screen crash. Yeah. The trick is to figuring out like what causes the crashes and then working around them in the future. I've over time I've learned a bunch of things of like, oh yeah, this is going to probably crash the software. Be wary, save now, and stuff like that, right? I'm always a little bit wary when I'm using ZModeler. I think it's a lot better than it used to be. It seems to be more stable. But I used to crash ZBrush all the time when I was ZModeling. Just be like, you can't merge those verts, crash. Sometimes it just does out of spite of doing something that is totally normal. Yeah, you can't rely on it completely. Obviously, things will still happen and things will break when you don't expect them to. But you can, you know, prepare yourself in a lot of ways once you get familiar enough with the tool. All right. See, this is a part of the design that I am thinking about. I can't remember who asked this earlier, but was asking about like, do I think about the design when, as I'm sculpting and like, or not the design, but like how things would deform as I'm sculpting. This piece definitely. This is like going right into her neck. You would never have an armor piece like this realistically because you'd get stabbed so fast. You're just freaking like jogging, you fall, and this goes right into your neck, right? It's just, yeah. No, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, like stuff like this would crash, right? By crash, I mean like it would crash into the geometry. So it's just something to be aware of. Stabbing yourself in battle is not a good tactic. Nope. Oh, thanks, Humba. Also welcome in. It's nice to finally be blocking in some of the clothing and stuff like that. We'll be getting to the game res before you know it. What time is it now? Okay, it's 12:30, so I should be hurrying along. I think that's enough blocked out for our purposes. You guys get the idea. So I'm going to do the same thing for the cape. Right. Now the cape is going to be a big old mess. I'll just tell you that now. It's not going to look good today. It's just kind of like getting the major volumes in. I've seen lots of people do capes and cloaks in different ways. Sometimes people append a cylinder or something like that. I always just extract from the body because it's just faster. But it is something to keep in mind that there are other ways. There we go. And this is supposed to go over the shoulders, at least on one side. The other side's gonna be tucked. Although maybe it doesn't have to be. I tucked it for the sake of the shoulder pad. How much armor hard surface are you going to put in? Not a lot. It doesn't have a lot of it. Right? Like again, the design looks like this, right? So the only real big pieces are this shoulder pad and the pouches, right? Who just flies through this stuff? Yeah, we'll accept that. Also, I'm realizing that the bracer is missing. Just hidden. Pale Witch Knight, thank you. I work well and precisely. Well, I feel like I've been letting you guys down because a lot of folks are way ahead of the game right now. Okay. So I'm keeping in mind that I need this to be relatively straight and off the body if I'm gonna freaking rig it. So that's important. But again, this is also going to be like a huge blocky blobby mesh. I'm gonna do this properly later. I'm probably going to create a base mesh in Maya next week with everything else for this particular piece of cloth. Also, I need to hit the home button. Okay. I'm going to turn perspective off. We're just going to make sure that this is not too curled. But again, I'm not too worried about it being perfect. Just, wrong brush. We'll probably touch upon that next week as well. But I might extend this one more week of high poly, one more week than planned, right? So I had planned for the high poly to be done by the end of next week, but I think I'll make it one more week, and then we'll get into doing the low res and stuff. I just want to give time for myself and for everyone to kind of get things to a nice place. So I think that the next workshop, no, sorry, not next week, but the week after will probably be, well, we might, oh, yeah, I guess it'll just be a regular thing, but it'll be more of the same, I guess. Pale Witch Knight, thank you for the subscription. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I hope you're having a good day. Just make 10 giant triangles and let the class simulation take care of the rest. All right. Okay. So again, I'm just trying to figure out like where the scape's going to sit. I'm learning quite a bit from watching your work. Well, I'm glad. All of this stuff is also being recorded and going up on YouTube for this particular model. So if that interests you as well, you can also type !VODs, and you'll get a link to that. Oops, I accidentally minimized my design. All right, I'm gonna put this back over to the side so I can see it. Did I just lose connection to my headphones? No. Okay, I don't know what disconnected, but something did. That's not reassuring at all. Okay, I'm gonna add asymmetry. You'll notice I created a duplicate. Usually, like when I block something out, I'll keep the symmetrical version just in case, and then I'll start, taking the duplicate and offsetting it. I'm probably gonna have to do something a little bit interesting here. Well, not have to. I want to do something interesting here where I have the cloth kind of overlapping itself. Right, so I kind of want to have something like this where it's just kind of baked in. So it'll always be kind of overlapping a little bit, even when it's animated and stuff. But I want it to feel a little bit more like it's interacting with the surface, right? So yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Maybe in the future too, I'll edit those VODs so that they're a little bit more concise. But it would be a lot of work. I could probably like cut out a lot of the fluff. Right now, I recommend just watching them at like 2 times speed or something, because they're chunky videos. I'm not gonna lie. Editing just takes a lot of time, you know? I don't want to get too far into the details of folds and stuff because, again, a lot of this is just going to have to be redone when I properly model it out. But I want to get enough in there so that I can get a feeling of where I want things to go. Yeah, see, I want this to kind of feel tucked in because there's a shoulder pad there. Whoops. Far enough with this. I want to go over like opening the mouth pocket, cleaning that stuff up, and just talk a little bit about, making things look really, really clean. So I think the week after next will be the week that we just talk about that stuff and just try to talk about like finalizing your character and making them, 100%. I know that'll slow some stuff down for some people, but I think it's important. And it's something that we should talk about. You already animated her mouth. Yeah. The little emoticon. Yeah. You were so fast. Well, this is a very, very rough mesh, right? It's not the this isn't the final mesh in any way. I'm just trying to figure out the shapes. What matters to me here is like, how wide is this brim? Like, where am I going to place folds? How are things overlapping? Things like that. Because now I can see like, oh yeah, this piece of armor is just going right into that clothing. Maybe I'll want to move that around a little bit so that it's not always there, right? I think what might be smart is if I actually curl up the top a bit like this. And that way it doesn't feel so freaking dangerous. Like self-inflicting. And it might add a little bit more interesting too. Interesting. It'll add a little bit more interest if I, you know, add a little bit of an upper shell thing like that. I do like this. And this way it's just not like penetrating her face. There we go. I'm gonna move this out a little bit. I'm gonna hate myself later because this is gonna be asymmetrical. This side of the cape sticks out way farther than the other side, and I'm gonna have to rig it separately. Oh well. How she goes sometimes. We've done it once, we can do it again. Just making sure that there's enough volume on there. I just felt like it's just everything's just so tight, right? I want to have at least some loose fabrics, some contrast, right? You don't want to have everything that's just right on the body all the time. Very boring and dry. But yeah, I do still think that I want to maybe broaden the shoulders on this character a little bit or something. I can see here that how much... actually, no, never mind. It's sitting on top of the body now, which is pretty good. Nichi Yoshi is now following. There you're following. Welcome in. Alright. Another thing to keep in mind is this cape is going to have holes and stuff in it. Now, in some styles, you could just, you know, alpha it out. But I want things to have thickness to them, so I'm actually probably going to end up modeling in all the cuts and stuff, which is gonna be a big old pain. But that's okay. It's worth it. In the name of style, right? We're going to take a few punches. I'm sorry, Nietzsche. I don't I don't understand. I don't know what language that is. Oops. Okay. What pretty work, I think? Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. In some situations, you'd alpha it out. Those situations are commercial development. Not always. Not always. Some companies will want you to have thickness. Not companies, but some projects will require that you have thickness on everything. They just wouldn't be dumb like me and not have. They would just not have cloth that has holes in it. Or you could probably do something with a shader that gives it thickness or something. There's other ways, but there's definitely productions where they'd have thickness. I think a good example would be Overwatch, though, where basically they have on McCree, he has a tattered cape, but the way they handle it is the tattered part is actually thin, but it still feels like it has thickness because the upper part is thick. He has like this big shawl part, and how it folds, it allows it to kind of overlap, and then the cape just sticks out underneath. So they do get away with it where they have like some things that are just cards and some things that have thickness, but because of how they kind of blend it in, it feels right. Oh, Joe, welcome in. Lurking, but really excited to go through all these VODs and build a hacking character in the future. That'd be great. I hope you keep me updated when you do. I'd love to follow along and give you feedback if you like. The old tassel texture at the end of the cloth, yeah. Not quite that humble though. Like it's a full cape, but the top part was built like this, where it has like this big chunk like this, and then the cape was underneath that. Absolutely awesome. Definitely haven't been lurking since the stream started. Okay. So I think the next thing I want to do is I want to show you guys. Maybe I'll do one pouch and straps. So maybe here on this leg there's a belt and the pouch. So maybe we'll block out that next, this thing here, and then next week we can talk about how I break this up into making buckles and adding buckles in and stuff like that. These headphones are starting to irritate my head. All right, well, we're almost done for today. It's just a little bit more. Okay, so let's quickly block that out, and once that's done, I think that'll be it for today. I will continue doing a little bit of stuff off stream as well, but the process and everything, you won't be missing anything important. Like all of it is the same stuff that you've seen. I'll just be applying it elsewhere. Maybe like shifting things around and dealing with the proportions and stuff and playing around with that. Make it feel correct. I might like resize the head and experiment a little. But yeah, it won't be anything major. Oops, I want to turn symmetry off again. And we're going to, hold on, make sure that we have everything masked out. We're going to first create the kind of strap thing for the pouch. Okay. Accept that. And then we're going to z-remesh it. Keep groups. Oops. Let me just pour myself some more water while it does that. You make modeling look so easy, honestly. Like, it's wild how you've got most of the clothing done within 3.5 hours. Well, it's all just rough block-in. So the first step is very quick and easy. Wow, this retopped very well, actually. Wow, I didn't expect that. I've never had a mesh that clean. Wow. Wow. Mind exploded. All right. But yeah, all that stuff kind of is very quick. I will spend, once I have all that stuff blocked out, I could spend about 2 weeks just like polishing this stuff, right? So it seems fast now, but it won't it won't feel fast once I start like really delving into it. Yeah. Off-screen stuff needs to start creating those belts. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of belts. I'm gonna create a few though, just so that you see the process. That's fair, yeah.
This didn't increase how I wanted. Uncrease all. Increase polygroup. Huh. Why is it giving me that extra sharp edge there? I don't want that. I didn't ask for this. I was just having a hard time. It's okay. Oh, did it make a mistake, guys? I think it did. That looks like a triangle. Hold on. No, it's just subdividing weird. Okay. It just doesn't like that pole, which is reasonable. I'll just sculpt that stuff out, though. I don't care. There. Anyway, that's fine. I'm going to inflate this a little bit. There we go. I need some stuff that has just more volume to it, because nothing really has a lot of volume here. Okay, we're going to store a morph target. And now we're going to just delve into here. We're going to get that, that pouch now. Let's extract that out. And we're going to turn on symmetry for that. Stroke, where is it? Transform z-axis. So I'm probably going to have to use, well, not probably, I am going to have to use local symmetry on this guy. All right. Geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld in the z-axis. There, great. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to yank that out. And we're just going to figure it out. Yeah. So now we're just kind of figuring out like what we want this pouch to kind of feel like. I have a strong idea of how I want this to work. Could you make one belt and then resize copies? I could, but I won't. Because things get a little bit messy when you do that. Well, that's not true. I might do that. I've done that. It depends. It depends. Some cases I will, some cases I won't. Like if things are like a very different size of belt, like one's like a really long belt. Like the big thing is like, okay, I'll probably just make one of the ones on the arm and then duplicate for the other one. And same with the leg. I'll probably make just one of these and duplicate the other one. And then I'll make one on the waist and then I'll just duplicate the other one. This one might be its own as well, but like this would be, I'd basically make one for both of these, one for each of these, and one for each of these. Because like these are kind of like different sizes that I want to make sure that they work, right? So I'm not gonna like make one belt and duplicate it everywhere, but I will duplicate some belts. But that won't be for today. That's a later stop problem. I see, yes. All caps. You really see. Yes. Okay. Oh, welcome back, Queens. You're just in time for the last little bit of this, and then we're going to just do some quick feedback for anyone who wants it. And that'll be it for today. So I'm just kind of figuring out the little stitching and stuff. So I'm going to have it so that this is kind of like a little patch over top, and then there's like a fabric that kind of wraps around the whole thing. Hit the home key again. So
The only thing that changes was the fur for me. I'll post an update sometime later tonight. All right. Okay. And I'm thinking that this is gonna have like a little scene here. You're not gonna really see that, so it doesn't matter too much. But just like again, figuring out like where the parts of the pouch are, so that when I go to actually doing the proper mesh, I'm not figuring this stuff out. This is where I kind of figure it out. Make sure that I know what I'm doing before modeling. Okay. That kind of works. That gets the idea across, right? I might just move this out a little. Give it a little bit of thickness, you know? Because there's supposed to be a lot of like, supposed to carry like the medical herbs in it. That was kind of the point of the pouches. Yeah. All right. And so as for like the straps and stuff, it's very easy. It's nothing complex. It's a lot easier than some may make it out to think, or may think it to be. So all I do is I just take this cylinder and I just extrude it. That's it. That's all it is. And then I'll go into Maya later. Increase all and increase it. Yeah. Okay. But I'll go into Maya later and then kind of add the buckles in. And when I go into add the buckles, that's when I'll start adding like the loop around and stuff like that, where like the separation. That'll add later once I start putting the buckles in. But that's not something that we're going to worry about just yet. This is about as far as we need to get with the straps and stuff until we touch up on them next week. Okay. Just extrude this. And we'll inflate. Not inset. Inflate. There we go. Make sure that they're thinner and they kind of fit. Right? We're going to just inflate this inward a little. That's it. Nice. I guess I'll submit for review. Still a long ways to go, but yeah, all right, yeah, no worries. Let's drop it in that folder and we'll have a look. I'm noticing that I want this to be a little bit tighter. Okay. And then, not this, but on these guys, I kind of want to move them up and down a little bit. There we go. The big thing was I just wanted it to feel a little bit, the straps are too spaced out. I still think they're a little bit too spaced out. I think they could be a little bit thicker too. There. That looks pretty decent. And then it's the same process everywhere. So I just kind of add these straps. I'll be adding them there. And we'll go on and forward from there. Okay. Oh, you have to DM me your email, Talden, and then I'll add you. I tried making it so that like people could request, but for some reason I just wasn't getting the emails. So I couldn't accept the requests because it just wasn't coming to my inbox. I don't know why, but you know, that's what happens. I think that this could probably be off the arm a little bit. Okay. So that, yeah, that gives you an idea of like all the steps, right? So the rest is going to be a very similar process. Of whoa, Incarnate, thank you for the raid. Welcome in. We're actually nearing the end of our stream for today, but we're going to be doing some feedback sessions. If anyone wants feedback on their model, we can do that. I'm going to actually stop the recording now for the stream, for the VODs for the workshop. But yeah, this is essentially the same workflow. I'm going to be doing a little bit more off stream. I'll be adding the other pouches, straps, refining some of the anatomy a little bit more, getting things in a right position. You know, wraps around the boots and stuff. And then next weekend we'll go in and start refining everything out. But yeah, all right. So anyone who's watching the VOD, have a good rest of your day.